Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the things we know. So today it's an interesting topic because I'm conflicted, and I think you are as well. But this was your topic, so I'll let you kind of talk about it. It's about smartphone usage and an air quote addiction.
Yeah.
Maybe that's
Well,
just on
yes.
me.
No, it's true. And in like thinking about this and reading about it, which is what I always do when I'm worried about something or curious about something,
Yeah.
the statistic that I keep finding in different places, so it must be true-ish. I always think, wherever you get it, you got it. But on average, we swipe, tap, and click our phones. And when I say our, like the average person,
Yeah.
2,600 times every day. Like it says 2,617. I don't know where they got that specific. Isn't that crazy?
I mean, it is, and it is shocking, and it's also, it reminds me, and we've probably talked about this quote. The When I was working at Weight Watchers, one of the things we learned was that we made 200 food decisions a day, and that was like, how on God's green earth? Because you think, oh, I'm eating breakfast, oh, I'm eating lunch, but it was like, no, you're deciding or not deciding to have a snack, you're deciding or not deciding,
Or how much if
or
you're
how
full.
much, or
Yeah.
exactly, and so at the time 200 sounded so high, and yet it does make sense when you really stop and think about it. And yeah, I am not surprised. I am surprised, but also like, yeah, that feels right.
Hmm.
So what
Totally.
was it about this that made you, what were you worried about that made you decide to start looking into it?
So there's a lot of things that I'm now like looking deeply at, and I'll be
Yeah.
very vulnerable on this. That I'm like, oh, it's the phone, it's the phone. And here's a spoiler alert that we'll get to. It could be also Mabel, my dog, but that
Oh,
like
I'm
leads to
curious
it, and
now.
I'll
Okay.
remind me to get to that. But
Okay.
basically, like the most current reason, and I actually got the book How to Break Up with Your Phone a while ago, just because I was talking to my family about it.
Yeah.
My husband doesn't really have a bad phone problem, but he can get on it for work a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
um but I was mostly looking at all of our posture, and I think post pandemic everybody is either on their laptops or looking down at phone, and I was like really thinking about Griffin's posture, about mine, and also just mental health and mood, and like how we're spending our time.
Yeah.
And I was also thinking about you know how like I get really addicted to doing like crosswords, then Wordle, then connections. Like I have this like thing that I like to do. And here's a little bit about Mabel, but partly because like I get up, I'm wide awake, and she's still in bed and like wants to snuggle. And
Aw.
so I'll get back in and snuggle with
Yeah.
her, and then I'll do those games. And
Yep.
that's not a horrible way to start the day, but it
No.
definitely cuts into the things that used to make me more productive. So all of
Mm.
that was like I was aware of that, and so I was like, I need to break up with my phone without looking too deeply at it. But also, I have developed in the past month like a really bad shoulder and arm in neck, injury.
Hmm.
I guess
Yeah.
I mean I keep saying I woke up with an injury that has no good story, years old, right? Like it's just like what is this? I have no idea. Um and I don't know that the phone's responsible for it, but the way I use the phone isn't helping. It makes it
Yeah.
hurt. So like
Yep.
I cannot look at my phone in bed. I can't look down at my phone. So this and as coaches, we always, especially like those of us who do somatic stuff, we always are like, where in your body is hurting? What's it telling you? Like are there emotions with it, or is there just information there? So
Yeah.
I feel like we always as coaches know that sometimes pain in the body is like the last ditch effort for some part of you to get your attention. And so I feel
Yep.
like that's what's happening. It's like, dude, now your neck hurts. Like you really like have to watch the angles you're holding your body. And so I don't think it caused it, but I don't think like I can do that anymore. Like look at my phone the way I do. So and also it's just like I can feel it in those muscles,
Well,
if
that's what I
you're
was gonna say. That's
texting.
where I feel it. Like when we moved
Yeah.
into this place where I live now 2 years ago, we had spent I had it in my mind that I was taking the first week of July off, and so I was going to be as unpacked by the end of the week as possible. But that also meant I had to pack that week because I was on camera, so I had to have things behind me that didn't look like crap. And so I did a bunch of packing at the end, and then I did a bunch of unpacking. And I absolutely like pulled muscles in my thumb, and it was from the unpacking. But then when I was using the phone, and I text weird. I text, how do I text? I'm trying to hold the phone. So I text with my left thumb and my right finger. I don't text with both thumbs. I don't know why. It's just the way I've always done it.
Interesting.
So I could really feel it straight down my left thumb. So yes, I know exactly what you're talking about. I want to go back though, not to make you feel bad about it, but what was it that you were doing that you are no longer doing or pushing back in your day by staying in bed with Babel and the phone?
Um, Sometimes it's exercise. So then if I
Okay.
don't get to it right away, I have to do other things and then put exercise off.
Right.
And that really affects my mood. I tend to get to it because I have dogs to walk and so if
Right.
nothing else, I'll get my steps in. But the way I like to work out, quiet in the
Yeah.
morning, time to breathe and like maybe write. I wasn't doing that as consistently. And I was noticing too, like I would sometimes skip or forget my vitamins first thing in the morning.
Oh,
So it's like
wow.
starting to notice like how like and I just don't know if like if I look at like my family's habits and boundaries around that stuff, I just had really clear ones. Plus I had 3 kids at home, right? So like the entire time Peter was here until he went away to college, including during the well, maybe not during quarantine. I think I lifted all of this on quarantine.
Yeah.
Like, yes, you can have your phone in your room. You have to be on Zoom. You have to message people. Like, go ahead. But they were never allowed to have devices up in their room. And
Yeah.
that ship has sailed since, and partly because they're so into their music. And
Right. Us too. Yep.
I'm not really as worried about it. And maybe I've just kind of become a marshmallow mom because my own habits around it. Like I used to not ever have the phone in the room. And then had to we had to get a seizure monitor for Griffin that is
Uh,
connected to an app that notifies our phones. So he has to have
yep.
his phone near him, and we have to have our phone near us. Now, I have figured out that I can keep it in outside of my room and just put it on really loud volume, but it'll wake up the whole house. But I can do that
Yeah.
if I really just. It's not even about removing the temptation is just removing any sounds, even when it's on silent,
Right.
how
Right.
it can
Right.
kind of as so there's a constant dance with that because I've
Yep.
been really, really good about it. And then it's kind of me with my phone is like me with coffee. It's like I know, we've said before, coffee is someone's health food, someone else's drug. For me, it's like not the best thing, but it's like a habit I love. It gives me that dopamine hit the same way my phone does. I
Yep.
can text you. You and I can actually, before I get out of bed, get a lot done by texting and cracking each other up.
Yeah.
So like again, we'll get to why it's not bad at all. It's just more about like how you use it and being conscious of your body and being conscious of your mental health with it
Yep.
too, which we'll get into. But yeah.
Yeah. So, and then, so for me, again, I think the common thought or suggestion is, don't get on your phone first thing in the morning. Don't have that be the first thing you do when you get out of bed. And again, probably more from an energetic mental health standpoint. Um, and I always have. What has changed, and we've talked about this on past pods, is I used to get up and this pre-April of 2021, I guess, and I would I'd immediately go to watching quote unquote Morning Joe on my phone because I was working out. So I'd have the news on and I was looking at my email and blah, blah, blah. Now I took that off and replaced it with music. But yeah, no, I mean, first thing in the morning, that's why, depending on where you are, if you follow our social media, you'll see that at essentially 5 in the morning California time, whatever social media that goes up for the pod goes up because it's literally the first thing I do is I do the social media. I don't always look at my email, but I have music on. You and I are texting. I've said this funny story before, but it's like a workout that should take me an hour typically takes me two because I pause and I text back to you or whatever. Like we'll have a conversation while I'm working out. So
Because you get great ideas. So
I do get great ideas. I mean, that's part of it, right? Like I'm working out and I'm getting good ideas. I'm like, ooh, I'm going to tell Kari this now, And because
mm-hmm.
we do both live on the West Coast and we do both get up early. I
Mm-hmm.
know you're available. I also know that, you don't have your phone on whatever. So I'm not going to wake you up type thing. I don't. I have my phone on silent all the time. So I don't get
Mm-hmm.
woken up by that. People can text me in the middle of the night. I won't see it till the next morning. And I have no desire to change that. When I get those alerts at the end of every week about my screen time, I laugh because I know I can see the changes and I know why the changes are there. But I actually hate that report. I'm like, it feels so
Intrusive.
rude. Like, I don't care how long I've been on the phone, iPhone.
Right. Well, I think it doesn't consider that you're using social media for work.
True,
Also,
true. Yep.
I mean, yeah, and I think of someone like you, and we'll do a whole episode on social media, but I you do a great job for us on social media. Thank you very much. If you're not following us, you should. Lisa does some great posts on both Instagram and Facebook, and once in a while we go live there, so it's kind of fun. Um, but like I see that part of you as, especially your social media time on your phone, as I can keep in touch with a lot of people I moved away from,
Yep. 100%.
and I can keep these businesses relevant. So
Yep.
it's like it's a good reflection of that in your energy, and that's a great role modeling for people, and we've talked about that. I would say, like, when I think about my personal evolution with a smartphone, I got my first smartphone, which was a Palm Pilot. It was
Oh,
red.
wow.
Yeah. When right, okay, so that would be 2008.
So
Okay,
you
so
had
it
a
was
Palm
right.
Pilot before you actually still had a Palm Pilot. You didn't go straight into an iPhone.
No, I had a Palm Pilot, and then I had a Nokia, and then I had an iPhone.
Wow.
So the
Okay.
Palm Pilot, I don't, yeah, the Palm Pilot had all those little buttons.
Oh,
It was
yeah,
so cute. It
yeah.
was like a little computer.
Yep.
And I didn't think I was ever going to use it as anything but a phone, because I didn't know. It was like my brain, or, like, and you're using like 10% of its capacity. I'm
Yeah,
just kidding.
yeah.
I think I used more than that. But anyway, I, but it was right before my dad had that transplant at
Mm.
Cedar Sinai. And my brother was getting proficient at it for his work. And oh, it's 11:11.
Ah,
um, my he was teaching me how to text, maybe. I can't remember if he was
mm.
teaching me or if I was just trying it.
Yeah.
But it was perfect because when my dad came out of surgery and was in recovery, there was a lot of just obvious ICU dementia. And he would have been very distracted. He hated cell phones anyway. Before he even went into this, he just didn't like the way it took people out of the room.
Right.
He was really anti all of what was happening with technology. And he so in order to communicate with each other, like, oh my gosh, dad doesn't know where he is, or just sort of
Mm.
giving each other moral support when one of us would spend the night in the hospital with him, or we were just kind of sharing news, like the doctor just came in and said this. I got really good at it, like crazy good. People watch me and they're like, how do you do that? Like, they'll
Yeah.
just like,
Yeah.
and we were in the waiting room, like practicing. And my sister was like, what are you saying to each other? I'm like, it's nonsense. We're just practicing. But that became, like something I could not let go of. Right around that same time, Griffin was diagnosed with absence seizures. So I began to subconsciously think of that cell phone like I couldn't be separated from it. If I was separated from it, something could happen to dad or Griffin. I didn't realize that right away, but there were moments when I was like, okay, once dad's totally out of the woods here, I'm going to throw this phone in the ocean. Like, I just remember feeling a little bit tied to it. And if dad's okay, then I won't have to worry, and I won't have to like clutch my phone so much. So that was sort of like how that started for me. And then I don't know. I think it became something that was really useful for me when I was, starting my own business, and I wanted to be reachable and be able to, send little things to clients. And I don't think I like had no boundaries about it. I definitely kept hours, but I liked that. I really love the convenience of like voice activation and being like, text this person, I'm on my way. Right. Those kind of things have always been really useful to me, like giving people ETAs
Yep.
or asking people, like, what did you want from the store? So I think it just became something I thought was really helpful. And I didn't think of it again after that little period as like something I was like clutching onto until maybe the pandemic. But then like I became like you guys with our text stream,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
Luckily, Griffin's neurologist at the time was texting with us a lot about all those drop seizures. So I just kind of associate that behavior with like things that I'm stressed about, and it's like helpful.
Yeah.
And then also, as you know, when Griffin was in the hospital, I don't want to talk on the phone and disturb him when he was finally getting rest. So like being able to text with people I care about who were checking on me or I was checking on them was just like a lifeline for me. So that's kind of how my habits have been.
Yeah.
Now it's like, yes, I'm addicted to things like looking things up and games and news and,
Yeah.
getting back to people. I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's funny. I'm trying to think, but I think Darren got me my first iPhone for Christmas, probably I want to say 2008 or 2009, just because I got on Facebook right away. And so when I look back at my photos, I can see Charlotte was little, and I want to say she was 2 or 3, maybe 4. So maybe it was 2010. But um yeah, I had a flip phone. I had QWERTY keyboards, all those things. I never had a Palm Pilot, but I never texted until I had the iPhone. And I agree with you. Like I think I'm not a text. I don't really like to be on the phone anymore, which is probably tied to my job. I'm talking to people all day long. So mostly I like to text with people. Um, but it is nice. And again, like now it's really great. I have a thread for Charlotte, Darren, and I. I have a thread for Charlotte, Liam, and Darren, and I have a thread that includes Irina. So, we've got all these different ways to communicate with us. You already said it. We have the Queen's thread, which is you, me, Elijah, and Melissa. I do text with my clients. It's an easy way to check in with people, to get back to people. I really, I don't know what we did before it. I don't know. I mean, it is funny to think about when we moved to Chicago, we had to pull out a big, like, ginormous roadmap to find how to get to places. Like, how did we even do that?
Oh
No
my
wonder
God,
Darren and
those
I went
Thomas
everywhere.
guidebooks. Those I always had those in the
Yeah,
car.
me too. And now it's just like Waze. Darren and I
Yes.
are always arguing, is it Waze or Google Maps? Which one's better? I'm a
I
pro Waze.
I just had a great idea for a reality show. Take a bunch of Gen Zs and give them like flip phones and Thomas guides.
Well, Charlotte had a flip phone, which was
Yes.
benefited her immensely because that's how she started playing guitar.
Oh yeah.
Um, yeah, I do not. I'm also like you though. Like I do games at night. I like to play
Mhm.
solitaire or mahjong or Royal Match. We've actually been
Mhm.
watching um guilty pleasure Vanderpump Rules. Charlotte and I have been watching Vanderpump Rules lately. Like she started at the beginning, so we're only on season 2. And
I
they
know
have a
nothing
cover.
about it. You have to
um
tell me what it is.
okay, we can talk
Yes.
afterwards, and then
Okay.
next time you're here I'll take you to the restaurant.
Okay.
um Sir, for everybody that needs to know. But anyway, so they have commercial breaks, and one is for Royal Match. And Charlotte's like, what is it? I'm like, oh, that's one of my favorite games.
Hmm.
But that is something I do like as I'm winding down at night.
Yeah.
I put music on, I'm playing games. So I do the games, but I think I do opposite of you because I'm somebody who gets
Yeah.
up and gets going right away. I don't have a Mabel to snuggle in with.
Oh. And back to that, like what I want to say about that is that's another place I dropped our boundaries. Like we were crate training her, and then
Oh,
Griffin had that horrible accident, and the boys were kind of raising her, and they did okay. Like they did, Miles was like taking her to um obedience school and all that, but that was a lot to ask them like while we were in a crisis to like,
yeah.
do this whole have her cry it out thing from the crate. And so right before we got Griffin out, I flew with the boys, if you recall, for 2 days down to my mom's 80th. And I took
Yes.
Mabel because I didn't know what else to do.
Uh,
Brendan had to stay at the hospital with Griffin and Ozzy was okay. So I took Mabel on the plane. And actually, she ended up being a good little comfort thing while everyone was like asking me about how Griffin was doing.
yeah.
Anyway, and then so on that trip, she wouldn't stay in a different crate, and to keep her quiet
Mm,
from not waking up everyone in my mother-in-law's house, I had her in the bed with me. So that has been how it's been since. Like it has been, we totally
gotcha.
gave into that. She's tiny, she
Yeah.
doesn't really bother us, except for when she does. And so it is like it's become this thing that it's like, like coffee, it's like, oh, this isn't really great for me, but it is so lovely to like snuggle you and have you right here. And it's kind of sweet. So
Isn't awareness part of the isn't there a thought of like, okay, you're aware of it. You're
Mhm.
aware of the coffee, you're aware of the phone. And so I mean, maybe this, maybe I'm just trying to justify, but then is it a problem versus somebody, to go back to getting the phone? Like when I first got it, I was the only one that had an iPhone. Darren
Mm.
didn't have one. And he used to get so mad because, yeah, I mean, when you talk about why is it so captivating, it is, and our lack of, attention span. Like, yeah, if things were getting boring, I'd go look at something on the phone. We love using it when we're watching a movie and looking up all the actors or whatever.
I do
Why do we
that.
recognize? I mean, IMDb, I don't know what we did before IMDb.
Uh,
And and so but he used to get really mad. And then he finally got an iPhone. And I would say we're even now, but he fell down that rabbit hole too. So when you read
yes.
that book, what's it say? What is it about being
Okay.
so captivating?
Well, I mean, I think it gets into what we've talked about so many times. It's like it's hard to parent our kids' generation around it because we are figuring it out for ourselves. We have
Yep.
our own addictions to it. We have our own. We are such a generation of pop culture. So then it was
Mm,
delivered to us on a platter, and then now there's this. Smartphones are so smart; they're just feeding us the algorithms, and
yep.
everything from '80s music to neck cream is what I.
Me too. Me too. I'm like, did I ever say I needed neck cream? I did not say that, but good God Almighty, do I get a million neck
Yes,
cream ads?
my phone is all about that, and like flowy pants or something like that. I was
Oh,
like,
great. My phone's sitting right here. Now I'm going to hear about flowy pants from now on. I mean, that is crazy, right? We've
yeah,
all had that experience
yeah,
of talking about now it's a kind of a running joke like, oh, I've never heard of that. Well, you will now because Facebook's going
yeah.
to push an ad. Again, we're going into social media, but
So the book is like there's a bit of a quiz there, and I wasn't in the extreme. And in fact,
okay.
I'll link that for
Yeah,
you
I
to
want
like
to take the
share.
quiz.
But
I'm scared.
um, I wasn't in the most horrifying. Like I don't always have it. Like it's not the first thing I do. You know that. Like I'm
Right.
pretty good about like leaving it and going out. Although then I like talking to my watch, which is an extension of
Very,
my phone, which is sort
very
of
James
cheating.
Bond. Yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah.
it's it's very opposite of James Bond. It looks ridiculous to
It
like be
totally
talking
does.
into like a cute phone or a cute watch. But anyway, I was, but I'm on the end of like you're teetering on addiction, right? Like you're teetering on like you
Mm,
have these habits, and I don't really that doesn't alarm me because
right.
I'm aware, like you said, I have all this awareness of when like I know what it takes for me to feel productive and energetic and strong and all of that. I also know that we've been through a lot, and I know there's reasons, and my kids are getting older, and there's a lot of like justifiable reasons why we've relaxed some of these things. So
Yep.
it's just a choice now. It's just a choice of okay, if you go to bed earlier, you can do all those things. And so what I've noticed now is like if I get up and I do these things for me, then I like can go have a sweet little snuggle with Mabel after sheets and after I've worked out
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So it's just inviting me to kind of the same way we coach people about treats,
Yeah.
right? Like it's not a shameful thing. You don't have to hide in the closet. Put it on your favorite plate and just
Yeah.
enjoy it and look forward to it and make it a thing. So it, it's always true that if I am more organized about how I spend my time, then then I'm like, okay, this is the time that I'm answering people on my phone, or I've been looking forward to texting her back all day, or I can always like there's like you and my sister and certain people in my life. I can just have like a funny Peter is that way. We can just have
Yeah.
a funny exchange and then go back to whatever we're doing.
Yeah.
So I think if like I have some space from it, I'm not one of those people who feels like I have to get back to people. That's not it. Like I don't have that. I think I'm far enough away from the like I have to be reachable. I'm not,
Mm, yeah.
I am not that important. I do not have to be reachable. I want to be reachable if I'm the only one that's going to get alerted when I go from seizures, right?
Right.
Obviously, but like I can have it over there on a good volume so that I'm not crouched over. So I think it's just inviting me to like really be in my body
Mm.
and be present and not let the phone take me out of my body or out of the room.
Well, and that's an interesting piece, right? The reachable piece, right? Like there was
Mm-hmm.
a time long, long ago when you left work and you were done with work until 8 or 9 the next morning.
Yeah,
And
gosh.
now it is literally you can be reachable at any time. You and I currently don't work for a company, so we don't have that problem. But I was, as you know, I was a manager at when I worked at the
Mm-hmm.
Health Coach Institute, and we had Slack on our phone, and the prevailing thought was if you weren't working, you didn't have to, if you, well, because we both worked hourly and part time. And so it was like, well, if you aren't working, you don't have to check Slack. And because I was a manager and even on the days that I was off, like I would respond to Slack,
Mm-hmm.
because if somebody needs something, somebody needs something. But it's just again, our parents didn't
Mm-hmm.
do that.
Yeah.
But we're always available all the time.
Yeah. I think those are the two things, work and tracking.
Mm,
I think those are the downsides of this, like all of us walking around with a full on computer in our pockets. It's
yeah,
this, and they all invite you to have some self regulating behavior, right?
yeah,
Like nobody, and I shouldn't say that. There's plenty of jobs that are like, you have to be reachable. Here's your work phone. You have to be
right.
reachable. So
Yep.
I don't want to, but I do feel like, I was one of those people who, really could just make clear for myself and to anyone I worked with, like, no, I'm not going to be reachable on those days.
Yeah.
So, that's a matter of just like
And it
having
was
your
an
own
active
backbone.
choice. Yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah. I mean, I
Um,
actively would say to people, the people that were underneath me, I'd be like, Thursdays are my day off. However, I will answer
right.
Slack, and
Right.
it's my choice to do that. I'm not being, I'm not being a
Right.
martyr around it. It's my choice to answer you.
Right. I would just I would set an alarm to like check it. Like if I didn't work for 2 days in a row, I'd set an alarm to just check it once.
Yeah.
But the tracking thing is interesting because I don't think my brother's ever gonna listen to this, but he and no, I mean, 4 kids, they were all over the country and
Yeah.
some out of the country. And I get it. And his addiction was like tracking where they were. It used to be sports scores, and then it was, tracking where they were. And I was like, you can't do anything about it. Dad used to say that to me. He wanted us to get home on time. And I was so conscientious about it that I would call and be like, I'm going to be a little late. I'm dropping off someone. And he'd be like, oh my God, I have to sleep. I'm a pilot. Like, stop
Right,
waking
right,
me up.
right. Yeah.
So he started unplugging the phone. And I was like, Dad. And he's like, well, I mean, you got to police yourself. Your mom will know if you come in late. I need the sleep. And, if you're in trouble, I can't do anything about it. So basically, like he just kind of had this, you'll figure it out. And I think that was pretty healthy. And I wonder what he would say about all this, because he would also probably worry about us and want us to be on time. If you could see where your kids were, would he have looked? I don't know. But I see people kind of making themselves crazy over it. And I see grown kids. And in fact, a therapist friend mine told me that there's more. She's never seen this amount of like people in their 20s and early 30s cutting off communication for a while with parents because of that, because they have had such like a hold on each other. And a lot of it has to do with texting and tracking and probably, like, be honest, maybe their parents were financially supporting them a long time too, because my brother would say, you can get off my phone plan and then I won't track you.
Right, right, right.
And my brother's kids weren't necessarily like that, but they were like, Dad, I'm fine. And so and it was funny because we did a surprise party for him last year when he turned 60. And I'm trying to remember. Oh, and he, for my mom's safety, sees what's on the Ring camera at her house.
Mm-hmm. Yep,
Okay.
yep.
And Brendan and Griffin and I landed and we went straight to see her. And then Brad, his son, had to turn off he turned off tracking so his dad wouldn't see that he was getting there. And we were like, oh my God, he probably saw us on the Ring. I shouldn't have gone. And we were so certain. And Brad was like, I think I forgot to turn off the tracking. And he was genuinely surprised. And he was like, I don't track and I don't check Ring. And we were like, yes, you do. Yes, you do. But he really had it. Like, so I think he's really
Wow, that's a
learned
funny side effect.
how to
Yeah.
separate from that. But we were kind of like, we can't surprise this guy. And we were wrong. I think he's relaxed that part a bit. But I really, as a result of that, of watching that, was like, I'm gonna like promise my kids as best I can that I'm really not gonna do that unless you're not where you say you're gonna be or home, like, unless I'm really worried about you. I do it sometimes, just like Peter was in New Zealand and it was
Right.
like I'll wake up like, oh, where is he? Oh, cool. He looks like he's on the mountain. So I'm not going to say I've never done that. But there is sort of this unwritten, you know, agreement I think a lot of us have. It's like, I can track you. I don't need to remind you that though.
I mean, I
We
agree.
don't
And the
talk
funny thing
about
is, I don't track either kid, mainly because I don't know how. But I
it.
did say to Charlotte recently, I would like to be able to do that. And she was okay with it. And I don't think I'll be obsessive about it because I'm not now.
Yeah.
It's funny because the way I guess we track Charlotte, and she would agree with this, is that we text her, or Darren will be like, I'm going to FaceTime you at any moment. But what was really interesting, she just turned 18 and she was out one night and we didn't even think anything of it. We texted her one time to say, are you good? And she said to me the next day, she said, you guys I don't know if you did this on purpose, but she's like, it seems like ever since I turned 18, you're not on, as this her lovely language, you're not as on my ass as you normally are. And
That's
I was like,
funny.
you know what? I think it was just an accident, but the fact that you appreciate that we didn't, okay, we won't do it as much anymore. But there isn't, I never do it with Liam. I don't
Uh,
know that we did it much with, and so this would be the one place where it's because she's a girl, but I don't know. Being with her this summer and watching how many men come up to her, I don't. I literally, I think I do have to know where she is. I mean, she's gonna be
yeah.
at college. I'm not gonna be like getting in the car going to try to find her, but
Right.
I do feel
Yeah.
like they'll give me a little bit of a peace of mind to just be like, oh,
Oh,
okay,
good. She's
let's.
back at her dorm. Phew.
Yeah, 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 totally.
So I wonder if your kids drove, if you would have been doing that sooner. Cause I
Maybe.
think
Yep,
that's when
that's
I
a good point.
started, was when Peter was driving. I was like,
Yep.
okay, good. Phew, he's on the freeway. All right, he'll be home soon. You know what I mean? Like it
Yes,
was
that
stuff
I
like
think
that.
that's a very good point. Yeah,
I
because
don't
we
know.
normally take them places, but it's like when she's at a party or
Yeah.
whatever. So I think that's probably spot on.
And
Yeah.
I don't know if this is like, you know, like off topic, but I feel like it's on topic. Like when I just remember at some point being like, if I'm like this, it doesn't matter that I'm coordinating carpools and I'm answering things to the teachers and I'm signing up for teacher conferences. All they see is this.
Right.
So I at one point when they were in middle school and phones were starting to be something they were asking for, and then high school, I really tried to minimize that or be really obnoxious and be like, right now I'm doing this, you know, because
I do
I
that.
did. One of those questions in that quiz is, are you ever told you're on your phone too much? And I was thinking the couple times I literally was like, oh my gosh, like I'm signing up for teacher conferences right now, or I'm paying for, like I'm sending money for a gift for your teacher. It's not always that. Sometimes like I'm seriously cracking up with you or somebody, but it's fine. I just remember thinking like I got to police my own stuff, but like what's happening for kids, right? You know, I've joked to you so many times like, why is Peter not texting me back? That thing's surgically attached to his hand.
Yeah.
And he goes through that and he's really aware of it and he hates it. And he's like, oh, you know, I wish everyone wasn't addicted to their phone. He's like, if I get a little socially nervous or like with unease, I could just look at my phone.
Right.
Um, when we
Which is
were
true.
when we were in Hawaii that time, like he would throw his phone. He will leave his phone behind a lot. He will take off on a bike when he's here with a hammock and some books. And he did the same thing when he was in Hawaii. And so I know that he has that extreme kind of discipline with himself. Like if I cut it
Mm-hmm.
off, then I'm good. But if I
Yep.
have it, I'll be on it. But yeah, like Miles, like whenever it's been so long since I've done it, but whenever we've had those times where I'm like, I'm taking your phone away because, you know, this, and this, they hate it at first. And then they're like around and they're delightful and they're noticing that their mood and their posture and everything. And they're, you know, they're, they're really aware of it too.
Yeah.
So
As
I
are
think
my
that's the
kids.
best we can do
Yep.
is just have them experiment with it. And then I'm not going to police it.
No, me either. And I mean, and I would like to not be police, but yeah, I've for sure gotten that. I mean, like, and there's been times where I've been out with the kids and you and I are discussing something. And yeah, maybe I should say, hey, I'm out, I'm going to do it. But I do like to respond right away. But I'll do what you do. I'll be like, hold up, I'm texting with Liam, or hold up, I'm texting with Kari. I'm listening, but we're
Mm-hmm.
talking about something.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I don't ever, I will say, I don't feel like Darren or Charlotte I ever say that to them. So I am definitely the most guilty of it. But yeah, I think both of my kids, Charlotte in particular, I don't know about Liam obviously because he hasn't lived here in a couple of years, but Charlotte will definitely leave the house without it. She'll say, I'm going to leave my phone here. But if she's with us, I don't care, but I do
Mhm.
want her to have it when she's out. So it's interesting. Yeah, I think still, I mean, I want to move on to the 30-day challenge. I think that sounds really interesting, but I'm going to state for myself, I feel good about my usage. Well, that's too strong of a word. I can see where there are places to um up level for lack of another crappy way of saying things. But I don't know that I'm going to. Does that make sense? I
Yes.
own that I kind of suck at it and I have no intention of changing.
Well, the pain in my neck and shoulder have me
Well,
very
that's it,
motivated,
right?
right?
Yeah,
So
totally.
there's a book by Catherine Price, Breaking Up with Your Phone. It's a 30-day challenge. And there's some main tips, Lisa, and I can share them with you. But the first one is become aware. Pay attention to what you're doing on your phone. Consider if the activities are worth it. That's such a great question. Because honestly,
Yeah.
sometimes it's like I do the CrossFit. It makes me feel close to my dad. He did them every
Oh,
day. Um, but I don't have to right now. You know what I
right,
mean? Like I can
right.
wait. This can wait. I can like
Yeah,
make this a treat at the end of the day. So like if you're checking social media for no reason, because like
right.
I think you and I both have experienced that. Like we keep in touch, we post something, and then we're like scroll, scroll, scroll.
Totally.
So just kind of look at your phone sometimes and do like an app removal if some of those things are just pinging you and distracting you or pulling you in. Just
Yeah,
become aware.
Liam does that all the time. He'll take Instagram off. He has had a love-hate relationship with Instagram. And again, we're not going to go deep into social media, but it's funny because growing his business now, he's being not only his artwork he wants to sell, but also as a graphic designer, there is a part of him that needs to go on and upload what he's doing. And so he has a presence, but he will take time and that's what he does is he deletes the app. He just completely gets rid of it. So I think the I love that question. Is it worth it? I mean, that's a great question. Anytime you feel like you're falling down a rabbit hole of some kind of thing that's not
Yeah.
serving you. Um, this next one I'm not a fan of. But I have talked to many students and clients about this. Set
Yes.
limits on how long you'll be on your phone each day. For example, could you try only checking emails at certain times or social media? And where this comes in, again, I'm not gonna do it. I'm very fluid with being on the phone, but I've had, and you know this, so many students, clients now who are like, I know I want to use social media as a marketing tool, but I feel like every time I go on, I spend losing time, and so that is when I will absolutely say, if you feel like that's an issue, then yes, make it a business building experience, and you go on and you set an alarm and you say a timer, and for an hour you're posting, you're responding, whatever, and consider it a business building activity versus, oh, I'm just on here to scroll or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, remove temptations.
yeah.
We talked about this already. Remove apps. I like this. I took this from the book that tempt you in unhealthy habits like stalking exes or hate following. I don't do either of those things.
I don't either.
That's hilarious. You can also put your phone away when you walk in the door or keep it in your bag when you're out with friends. There are times like if I'm going out with my entire family, I leave my phone at home and it's just lovely. I love it. Except
Yeah,
for then I want pictures and then I'm like, someone take a picture.
right.
But that's the other
Stalking
thing.
exes, though,
We
I just think
haven't
it's hilarious that that's in this book.
we haven't covered that one, the whole thing about it being our camera. That's
Yes,
huge. And
ginormous.
one of the things in that quiz, it's like, how often do you take selfies? And I was like, well, who cares? Like I want to take pictures of things. I think what's really horrific for anyone who wants to look, my kids always want to look through my photos because they know I'll take the most pictures. And even though they
Right, me
complain
too.
about it, they want the pictures.
Yep,
They'll look through and it's so much crap that I screenshot. There's so
yep,
much crap.
me
Like,
too.
oh, that recipe, that idea. Oh, I got to send this to Lisa. It's a meme. It's ridiculous. It's like that's how my brain is if you were to look through my
Yep,
photo feed. But there is a way to multitask with it, that camera feature, that screenshot, and the way like that allows you to get back to it later that I really love. But anyway, so I'm
mm.
not going to remove the camera app.
No, no,
Um,
no. I don't know if you can.
yeah, but yeah,
Um,
I do put my phone away. a lot. And if anyone's listening who thinks I don't, that's fair. There are times where I say a lot. Sorry, I got to check this Griffin, like Miles and Griffin, like I definitely lean on that, and it probably seems like I use it and it's an excuse because I do, but I still, we're not out of the woods with him and with the seizures, so I
Yeah.
still do have a pretty unhealthy need to just sort of check it compulsively sometimes if
Yeah.
I'm getting that spidey sense. But I put it away or leave it home whenever I can.
I don't. And so nobody's going to accuse me of making shit up. I have and I often have it in my hand, So, I mean, I'll have my purse and I'll still have my phone in my hand. But you're right. A lot of it, the picture thing's huge. I mean, I have like, Dare gets so mad at me, but I have the cloud. So I have like 15,000 photos on my phone. And part of it is I do divide it into albums and I do use a lot of it for social media. So it's like, okay, if I delete it off the phone, it goes away from or if I delete it or put it on the computer, right? Like if I get rid of pictures, then it's gone. And I'm like, oh shit, that inevitably will be the one I want. Um, this one I did use a lot when I was working. I used all the time when I was working for HCI. I would put my phone on do not disturb so that when I wasn't distracted, because again, we already talked about it, but even if I'm not looking at my phone, I'm getting the text on my watch. Right. So I would put it on do not disturb so that wouldn't happen.
I'm laughing because, uh, again, technology across the apps, but I have all Apple products, which is the bane of my podcasting existence for sure. But because I have messaging on my laptop and my phone, maybe my watch too, is I somehow put us on do not disturb when we're recording. And so you'll text me and it'll be like, Kari has silenced notifications, Kari. And like,
Yeah.
I give people the impression that I've silenced them. And I was like, no, I haven't. I haven't. Like, I'm getting your texts. And so I don't know why that's out there like that, but I do know how to use do not disturb. I use it all the time and I never keep it on. I even
Right.
have it set for
I don't
times.
think that's what that is. I mean, we don't have to go down this hole, but
Yeah.
I don't know why that happens because I've had that with other people too. Or they've they've asked me like, when I text you, does it say I'm on silent? And I'm like, yeah, and they're not, so
Yeah.
it's weird.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, yeah, it comes to it's like anything, right? So our phones, again, we'll do a whole session on social media, but our phones, social media, it's
Camera.
just camera. It's a new, and I love photos. I mean, I love, love, love taking photos. I have a bazillion photos when I used to have a camera. And so now that I like a physical camera and now with the phone, I mean, it's one of my favorite things to do. And I love documenting things. But I think it's like anything, whatever if you are feeling like this is not serving you, then that is the reason to take a look at this. It's why you did it, right? It's why you bought the book. And then you were prompted because of your neck pain. But the first thing is becoming aware and mindful of your usage. And then you get to decide, I'm deciding I'm good with how I use it. You, mainly because of pain, have
Oh,
decided there's some adjustments.
well, the habits and the positions for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, yeah, the whole posture challenge is big to me. And it relates to so much for me. But
Every
like
time you say posture, I sit up straighter.
I know I love good posture
I
and
do too.
I'm trying to be
But
mindful of it.
I know what you're talking about. I mean, we were going to a chiropractor way back, God, it's got to been 10, 12 years ago. And one of the things we did was traction where, we had a ball and on our head and, that wasn't even, they weren't even blaming cell phones so much back then, but just the fact of the way we are on our computer all day. I mean, phones are just one of the reasons that we have that posture has gotten so much worse for people.
Okay, just for fun, I was just looking at like my most used, and it's funny that maps is my most used. I do use it for navigation all the freaking time. Like even when I know where I know how to get home, but I always want to know traffic patterns. So I do love it for that. So it's like my GPS, my camera, texting,
Yeah. Wait, how are
and
you
then
finding
like
your most used? Where are you finding that?
usage.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, yeah, I'll go look
Yeah.
too. Let's see what mine is.
And I thought I thought that like Facebook would be higher than Instagram, but I definitely do. I think because we send each other so many funny things on
Right.
Instagram, so that's higher. But before social media is news. But again,
Hmm.
and we'll get into that because we're in a freaking election year. That is not
Right.
also healthy either. To have like news at your constant fingertips and like online internet news, like I don't know.
Yeah.
So that's a whole thing that I'm trying to change my relationship with and go back to a little bit more just NPR on in the morning in the kitchen or something. Anyway, so I'm not feeling bad about those things. Like that's exactly how I use it. And I live at home and I work from home.
Yep.
So, I don't see a ton of people unless I will today, but like I don't see a ton of people unless I make plans. And I need this to sometimes make those plans. So
Yep.
like you said, there's nothing inherently bad about it. It's just notice how it's affecting your body and your emotions and
Yeah.
your mental health and make a change. I'm making a change because literally my body was curled over.
Yeah. 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 And the mental health piece is big. I do think that's tied a little bit more to social media, which obviously, as we've said already 5 times, we'll be getting into in another episode. But the news for sure, and I don't have it. I do have news apps on it. I have local news. So I get alerts for that kind of stuff. Um, but yeah, I have completely gotten rid of all of that stuff. So from a mental health standpoint, for sure. All right, you picked a song.
Yeah, it's a bit sad about it, but it does get into the idea that you know we are living in a time that because we have things to escape into, we're not connecting enough, face to face with people.
Yep.
Maybe that's internet, not just phones. But anyway, this song grabbed me. I didn't do a huge search though, so we could have probably found a better one. But this is by Erica Mason, Addicted to My Phone. And these are the lyrics I grabbed. Why has my phone become the only place I seem to feel safe? In a crowd full of people, I'm so quick to escape. Why do I scroll, just focus on the things that I hate, compare myself to other people who could never relate? But they look happy, and I know it ain't all real, but just because I know it, it don't change the way I feel.
I mean, I think that's a spot on song. It's the perfect song for this.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting because you talked about Peter saying like when he feels, and I do that too. I definitely, if I'm like, okay, it's the phone's a safety. It's weird because it is both a place where you can feel safe and whisk yourself away, and it's a place where you can feel horrible compare and despair. So it's like anything, I guess. It has sort of you have a love-hate relationship.
It's interesting because I'm having this strong feeling right now, this awareness, because as you could tell when we came in, I'm feeling really bad about it. I'm feeling sheepish. It's not just the phone, it's Mabel and the phone. But then I'm like, my life and all the things coming at me and all the things I manage and juggle and
Yep.
often solo.
Yep.
So I think about going to like a I went to I went to the lab yesterday. I went to if for those of you watching, I don't understand how Zoom just suddenly like does
Gives
these
you thumbs.
funny things. Yeah, it just gave me a thumbs up right over my face. So I went to the lab yesterday to do like routine blood work for my naturopath, and when I sat down to wait, I was actually counting on a long wait to just get some stuff done for the
Yeah.
pod and some other stuff. So I just had this overwhelming feeling like for me, I'm so grateful when there's a waiting room because I'm like, okay, if I have my phone or my laptop with me, I'm going to catch up on some stuff and no one from home can interrupt me. But it was
Yep.
like such a short wait. I was like, I didn't even get through half of one email. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
So it is funny. Like I'm actually grateful to have that technology at my fingertips because it does collapse time for me when I need it to. Because I'm always
Yeah.
feeling behind these days. So
I
yeah.
mean, again, nothing is ever absolutely good or absolutely bad, except for Project 25. That is absolutely bad. But just gonna throw that in there. Um, but it is if you are feeling it just again, to me, it just goes back to if you are feeling concerned, then you get to take a step back and look at what you are doing. Phone, food, shopping, anything, cocktails. You get to decide. You get to take a look at what you're doing and decide what part of it is serving you, what part isn't. Is there a way to fix the part that isn't?
Mm-hmm.
It's it's
It's true.
it's it's just it's that simple. And I do think there's a lot that's really, really great about phones and
Yeah.
smartphones, and I'm happy to have them. You said it earlier, it kind of was a rush through remark, but I absolutely believe because of having my phone and social media that even though I've been gone from Chicago for 7 years, I can walk back into any one of those relationships and feel like I never left because we
Nice.
are so connected that way. And I so, so grateful for that.
That's nice. Mm.
Yeah.
So thanks for listening. I'm hoping, this brings reminders, just like you said, put your phone down and breathe, check your posture, enjoy
Check
those
yourself
around
before
you.
you wreck yourself.
Yeah, just check, and just enjoy those around you, because that's obviously, one of the benefits of having some boundaries around it.
Yeah.
But when you pick it back up, we're so glad that you're tuning into the pot.
Yeah, because you're probably listening to it on your phone. So we
Yeah,
really don't want you to put the phone down
yeah.
completely.
That was the other app I forgot to mention, is my podcast app is up there too.
Yep.
Anyway,
Yep. And Spotify, that's a big one for me. That's
yep,
probably what takes up most of I couldn't find my usage. I can't figure out where that is. But I bet you that's that and probably Facebook are probably my
yeah,
two biggest and texting. But yeah, so if you do have your phone in your hand and you want to go on and look for the Things We Know podcast on Instagram or on Facebook, hit the like button or the follow button, and you will see all the little fun in between things that we share.
awesome.
All right, everyone. Thanks as always for listening, and we'll be back next week.
Bye.
Bye.